Welcome to the Better Agent Podcast. If you're a real estate agent that's looking to grow your business, then you're in the right place. Whether you want to go from 5 to 10 transactions a year, or 10 to 50 transactions per year, or more, well, then this show is for you. I'm Josh Lavik, your host for the Better Agent Podcast, and in each episode, we'll bring you the tools, tips, and tricks directly from myself and some of the best leaders within the real estate industry. We have one goal in mind, and that's to boost your production and elevate your real estate game. Let's dive in and start creating a better real estate experience together. Okay, welcome back to the Better Agent Podcast. I am your host, Josh Lavik, and I'm a real estate agent, team leader, and overall just interested in growth and development and changes. And what does it take to grow your business, your real estate business, whether it's going from 5 transactions up to 10 transactions or 10 to 20 or 20 to 40 or 50 or beyond. So my podcast and guests are all about growth, and that's who I'm inviting on today. I am grateful to be honored with Justin Stoddart, who is a former luxury home builder and land developer, and came to be extremely influential in the title industry as well. And so I wanted to bring on Justin to talk a little bit more about his background and how it can hopefully help our listeners, help improve their businesses as well. So without further ado, Justin, why don't you give our listeners a little more background on yourself and what you're hoping to get out of our conversation today?
Yeah, cool. I appreciate it, Josh. Well, I think just being in conversation with people like you that want to grow, it will be a win, right? So I hope to be able to contribute something. Something that I love talking about, and let me fast forward a little bit from where maybe you left off, is that after the title industry, I authored a book called The Upstream Model. I'll talk about the origins of that, which led me into developing a coaching company that I still manage and lead today. But my primary focus is actually on a platform called Pro Insight, which is, it makes getting professional referrals really easy. I think every real estate agent out there loves it, or loves the concept at least, of having an estate attorney or a tax professional or a lender or a financial advisor saying, hey, I've got a client who's ready to go now. When trust is transferred from another professional, it's tough to beat that, right? When those clients aren't shopping around, when their trusted professional tells them that I definitely talk to Josh, for example, right? Our platform at Pro Insight is designed to make that process easy. My book, The Upstream Model, actually is the kind of blueprint or the foundational principles of how to do that. So there's kind of been a progression through my career of first unknowingly, but by mere survival of figuring out a way to get more referrals than I was currently getting. That's what I uncovered in my building industry days. Fast forward, was brought in as an executive for a title company, and I began teaching those principles to real estate agents and realized they were just, if not more applicable to real estate agents than they were for home builders, which caused me to author a book on that, launch a coaching company, and now a digital platform that makes that easy. So that's the common thread, is what I call working by professional referral, right? I think everybody loves and knows how to work by referral, right? I think Brian Buffini did a great job of teaching us all how to really build personal relationships. The challenge with that is that those aren't very transferable. Mm-hmm. And so it can be hard to go on vacation, let alone sell that entity at some point in the future, because it's all tied to what you've done personally for people for a long time. What we found is that when people begin to build a business that's tied to business strategic alliances, it becomes a transferable asset. It becomes a business they actually love more because they can actually step away and go on vacation or even a sabbatical, and the revenue can still continue to flow because, again, it's not tied to your charming personality. It's tied to kind of these business alliances that you've created, right? These strategic partnerships. And so that's really, maybe back to your question of what would I like to get out of this? I'd just love to infuse in people's mind the possibility of being able to work by referral, and yet also have it be a transferable asset that at some point they could at least go on an undisturbed vacation, let alone even sell that business and have it be actual something that somebody would purchase from them, because it's not just tied to themselves, right? That'd be something that I'd love to help people to see, is that is a possibility.
Yeah, for sure. Certainly, referrals are important in my business, and pretty much any realtor that's successful in the industry has somehow figured out a way to, build their business in some way, shape, or capacity on referrals. Even if they're a hardcore cold caller and they're calling for sale by owners or expireds or somebody they've never talked to, my guess is some portion of their business is going to come from that personal sphere or personal relationship and those referrals. And at some point, even some of the business I've noticed too, like some of maybe it was originally a cold, maybe lead source, but we were able to come in and service that business. Some of the best referrals I've gotten were from actually those lead sources that I've done such a great job of really stepping up and helping those people that they've automatically kind of referred me to other friends and family and things like that. Yeah. And I mean, I've certainly experienced too some of the business referral relationships as well. And it's part of my past is, I've been in this real estate business for almost 20 years and, really primarily serving residential clients, both for single families and condos. But I think, definitely I've participated in sort of more one-on-one business networking groups or things like that, which is maybe a form of kind of what you're talking about in your platform, but maybe on a smaller local scale. But I think it does speak volumes when you do get one of those referrals, because exactly what you mentioned, and I've experienced this too, is that, they're often not interviewing 5 agents or something for the job. It's often, you came recommended because my attorney recommended you, or my mortgage person, or my insurance person, or whoever, and getting that personal connection and referral, is helpful. And that's been interesting too, as I just chew on this and I listen to it. I think a lot of what, we're trying to do in more of our modern marketing too, is even build a lot of our content, whether it's on this platform or some of our YouTube and other video content. It's to further enhance that referral and client relationship, right? And it's exactly what you're talking about of how can we take what we're already doing and just sort of magnify that message to try to reach more potential people. And I think if we do that in the right way, then I think we're able to take vacations and actually build a more sustainable business and, step out rather than just always be 100% plugged in and feel like we have to answer the phone 24/7 type of thing. But yeah.
Well, I think that what you described there is exactly right, is that, well, I want to highlight something that you said there that I think some agents miss, which is, I don't think getting leads, like having other lead sources, is necessarily bad unless you become addicted to them. In other words, your business is completely contingent upon that as a source, right? Whereas what I heard you say is that I've tapped into those lead sources and then I've converted them into my clients. So in other words, instead of going back to the big platform for their next transaction, they come to you, right? Which, when you can do that, instead of being leveraged by the platforms, which is how most agents operate, you leverage the platforms to grow your personal sphere, right? I think that's a great way for somebody to really quickly grow the amount of people that they serve. But if they get too addicted to that and they love the lead flow, it turns into a revolving door of clients, and those people don't come back to you because your service was not extraordinary. And so they'll go back to the portal and find somebody else next time. And now you're forever receiving a 40% haircut on all of your revenue because you're having to share it with that big platform. So anyway, I like your approach. I think it's a great one. And I do believe that it's interesting when you look at most professional industries out there, most of them know how, even when they serve the end consumer, even though they're a B2C provider, they figured out a way to get referrals B2B, right? Lenders get them from agents, right? Insurance agents get them from lenders, right? Financial advisors get them from tax professionals, right? Like there's this ecosystem of what I call getting upstream, right? In other words, who is the person who is serving your client before they need you, right? Who's the professional that's, if you picture a stream of clients, ideal clients, most professionals are hanging out here at the bottom. They all have their lines in the water, and they're essentially trying to get a fish out of the water. And there's that same lead was sold to 5 other companies, or even that person has 3 or 4 other friends, pretty close friends, who are real estate agents. And it's like, it's very competitive, right? And what the model that I learned as a high-end home builder is that my personal sphere and an advertising budget may not be the best way to actually grow a referral-based business. That maybe the best way to do it is to find the other professionals who are just upstream from me building a home or you selling a home. And because at that point, there are certain trigger events that cause that person to need that professional at that moment, and sequentially they're going to need you next, right?
Yeah.
So as a hand home builder, I knew that an architectural designer, every home that he was designing was most likely going to get built, right? Barring some economic change. Like every one of his clients was an ideal client of mine. Now I could market to the whole community and tap all my friends in personal sphere for referrals. But if I just went to that one person, now the problem is most people are like, oh, I get it. Now they start soliciting that one person and then you show up like everybody else, right? Because I wasn't the only guy that thought of getting business from an architectural designer. In fact, every good home builder had thought of that. The difference was the approach.
Sure.
And I think this is important.
What value can you bring to them, right? I mean, what exactly? Yeah.
It's not showing up with my handout as a solicitor to say, hey, what can I get from you? But it's more at tell me about your business and what are you trying to accomplish? Where's your business at now? Where would you like your business to be? And what's your strategy to getting there? And what pitfalls do you foresee you might run into? What strengths do you have that might accelerate that growth? I mean, you're just acting as a business consultant for somebody who can feed you, right? And that's difficult for some people to realize, well, but I get paid to build homes, not to inquire about, an architectural designer about this, or as a real estate agent, I don't have time to inquire from a financial advisor. I got to be out marketing. I got to be out following up on leads. But it's like, no, you're missing the point, right? Is that financial advisor has referrals. They meet with, we've got a database of 300 to 500, which means that they have somebody listing their home every single week. And by the way, if they start asking a couple additional questions about that, they're going to uncover that they're going to start to uncover those opportunities, which, by the way, as a financial advisor, you want to know that your clients are moving, because if they don't tell you, they're probably just going to give you wiring instructions out of your managed IRA account to pay for something that may not have been wisely purchased, right?
Yeah. Well, and what a way for them to add value to the client, right? If they're the financial advisor and like they know ahead of time, hey, you're thinking of making a move, like, boom, you should talk to this Josh or Justin or this other great realtor out there because they really know what they're doing. And like, you should talk to them. And at the very least, you get an opportunity and hopefully have it reflect back on that financial advisor as like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I met with them. They were really helpful. They gave me some advice or, provided some insight into the market and what's happening and what things I could do to get my house ready for the market. And sometimes those decisions too might not happen immediately. I mean, I can think of one, actually a client right now, we're working on getting their house ready for the market. Well, we first started conversations 6 months ago, right? Because they had a lot of things they had to do to get that house ready for the market. And so, sometimes just having those conversations earlier and bringing those referrals higher upstream can really provide more value that ultimately when they sign the listing contract, it's almost like, well, they've already provided this much value before that listing contract even comes. So it's already there.
When I started to dig into this again prior to authoring my book, and since then, I've of course become a student of it because we have, again, a platform now that makes this easy for professionals to do this. But 1 out of every 3 paint jobs people are doing because they are preparing to sell their home. Right?
Yeah.
So and the list goes on and on. We've identified 38 professional types. 38, right? Now, painters serve anywhere about 10 clients a month. Like a good painting company is about 10 clients a month.
Yeah,
right? That's
sure.
3 opportunities a month. And the only thing that painter needs to ask is what prompted you to paint your house?
Yeah.
That's it. Right. And when you ask that question, they're going to say, oh, well, because it was just time, or, we're actually preparing to sell. Oh, interesting. And then the follow up to that is like, do you already have a real estate agent who you're working with who you'd rate a 10? Like, are they awesome? I don't know about a 10.
That's pretty high. I don't know. Yeah.
Would it be helpful if I introduced you to one who I personally would rate as a 10? Yeah, sure. That'd be great. Right. Now, all of a sudden that painter went from getting fed by a real estate agent to now feeding the real estate agent. You realize how much that agent's going to do to promote that painter, right? No. And how much better, by the way, because people are like, well, why would a painter ask that? Why do they care? They're just there to give a bit. Well, if they want to be a commodity forever and only be gauged on their price, then they should continue to just ask those questions. But if a painter wants to say, let me tell you why I ask, is because if you're going to live in this house for another 10 years, pick whatever color the HOA will let you, right? It's your house, do whatever you want, right? But if you're doing this to sell, might I suggest a couple of paint colors that I'm seeing on really modern houses right now that might give you a better like resale price, right? If I'm a homeowner, I'm like, dang, who is this painter? Like, what a great idea. I hate choosing paint colors. It's so hard. And what you're telling me is you're going to give me the actual paint colors of homes that are popular right now that will actually increase the sale of our home, maybe even pay for your paint job entirely because of that. Holy cow, right? And you say you have an agent that you're working with. You're like, man, like all of a sudden you just helped a painter go from being a painter to a paint advisor, right? Yeah. They can charge more for that, right? And that client now listens to them. So think of that, what I just shared right there. Yeah. Across 38 industries. We've identified over 100 opportunities a month that can come from those professionals. 100 a month, referrals, not leads. They're not leads of people that are going to, you know, they're window shopping and they're going to kick the tires for 6 months and 2% of them are going to convert into a client, and all the resources to try and figure out which 2 out of the 100. We're talking about like every referral, the conversion rate is so high because those professionals recognize that they don't want to waste your time. They're only going to give you people who are like, yeah, we're doing this to sell. And as soon as you're done, we're going to list it. Like it's ready to go. They've been nurturing and finding these clients for you. Yeah. Right. That's powerful. They're not in your nurture system. They're in their nurture system, and you're being brought to the table at the moment that they need you. Yeah. Well, that sounds like it could be a better option than paying the 25, 30, 40% referral fee to some other portal or some other option. Yeah. So I think if you can, as a good agent, I mean, right, just tapping into those business relationships and tapping into those networks, you know, providing, you know, more referrals for the painters and the other business people, but then also giving them tools for them to provide more leads to you. I think that's a huge way to do it. Absolutely. You know, that's always been, yeah. And I guess I'll be honest, I've often sent referrals like that to business people, but I don't think I've thought about it in the way that you just mentioned and described in as much detail of saying, okay, could we give them a script that's 1 or 2 questions that says, boom, that would automatically make it easy for them to get the information and get the referral, right? It doesn't even need to be like that much of a, you know, Q&A session, right? It's not like we need a simple. Yeah, so simple, so simple. I love that. So that's very cool. It's just helping those professionals to be more helpful to the clients they're already serving. That's it, right? It's not like they're trying to steer their clients in a certain direction. They're not trying to like force their people around you. It's like, hey, okay, you're doing it for this reason. Do you already have somebody great? By the way, if you do have somebody great, would you mind making an intro? I love meeting great real estate agents, right? So for them, it's a win on both sides. They get another potential referral partner, right? But if they don't, now all of a sudden you're right there. And I think the reason why most people haven't tried this is because they've been taught that networking is slow. They've treated it like a personal relationship, right? They apply the same rules to their professional sphere as they do their personal sphere. It takes time, and there's coffee meetings and lunches and golf games and all this stuff. And while you are likely going to get to that point as well with your professional sphere, you should not start with that. You don't need to go to their kid's birthday party, vacation with these people in order to say, you know, hey, tell me what kind of clients are your ideal clients. I deal with a lot of clients every year. Many of them need a financial advisor. I'd love to have a financial advisor that I can bring to the table. Tell me about your practice. I'd love to know if there's a right fit for me to bring clients to the table, and then ask them those questions. Tell me, where are you at right now? What are you trying to accomplish this year? What's your methodology for getting there? What are the breakdowns? Might I be able to make some introductions to other professionals that might help you shore up some of these areas that you feel like are weak in your business? If you're online presence or your social media, let me tell you what I did. It's just being helpful to the professional and then saying, Mr. Professional, would you be open to the fact, if you uncover that your clients are moving, to recommend that you have somebody who works differently? Yeah, I'd be willing to do that, right? So it's giving value before you come to get. It's not leaving a stack of cards on their desk, right? It's really giving, making it really easy, becoming a part of their client experience. Totally. Right? Versus let's be friends, and then at some point I'll talk about business. It's let me see if I can add value to your clients through your client experience. And if it so happens that they need me, great. If not, right, the time will come. You know, I couldn't agree more. And it's funny,
just talk about the client experience. And that's something that our team has been focused on for many years, is just how do we really provide a better real estate experience? How do we provide a better experience both for our clients, but also the people that we serve and those vendors and our relationships and agents that choose to join us, right? It's really about that experience that people have, and how do we really enhance that and build upon that, I think is, powerful message that, is ultimately definitely what we're all about for sure as our team. It continues to grow and thrive in this market. But, it's also a question that I think if we continue to ask ourselves, then we do continue to hopefully raise the bar and improve and grow, right? I mean, that's also part of our desire in this market and in this business is to continue to, staying relevant and fresh and always growing and always learning and always seeing how we can add value and give back to, both the people that we help and other clients in that regard as well. So I am curious though, as well, you had mentioned you're talking about building what did you say? It's a sellable or scalable and sellable asset. Like, is that real? Like who buys this and how do you sell that, and is that even real? Tell me more about that.
It begins with optimizing your business so that it could be sold, right? I mean, right now, just to give you some of the statistics, 50% of the businesses that our referral platform supports, which is across 38 different professional types, all of whom serve property owners, right? So everybody, and again, this was designed originally for real estate agents for a similar reason that you described, is that oftentimes real estate agents feel like they are invited to a buffet. They bring the food and everybody else brings a fork, right? And the same aha that you just had, Josh, which was, man, I give out a lot of referrals, but I've never really thought about it coming back the other way. We've just thought that we're the caterer, right? We're the guy that brings the food instead of like, hey, let's bring a potluck, right?
Yeah.
So we set out to build Pro Insight to level that playing field a little bit and make it to where there was at least some reciprocation in the form of referrals back the other way. And what we realized is that we were onto something much bigger than we thought, because all of these industries, when you start to put them together, when they all have the same ideal client, right, which is a property owner, that there's so many synergies, not just in passing referrals to one another, but in actually improving the overall client experience. So for example, when I'm a tax professional and I have a great estate attorney and a great financial advisor who I work really well with already, if I'm a client and I don't have one of those three or two of those three, knowing who my financial advisor already works well with is a huge boon. That's amazing. I want that information, right? Who would you recommend? Clients prefer to work that way. They prefer to have professionals who are great, bringing other professionals who are great to the table, right? Similarly, we as professionals prefer to work that way, right? Yet technology that's being developed today has not been developed with that in mind, right? Until now. That, like what, the company with the Z, starts with the Z, what they've done is they've built a beautiful consumer experience that then charges 40% in order to get those clients over the fence to the professional. In other words, they've stepped between the client and the professional, right? What we've said is we don't want to step between. We just want to make the professional so much better and closer to their client. They can serve them better, right? So back to your question about transferable, is that when you begin to think about your business with the end in mind of, I may not want to do this when I'm 90 or 80 or 70.
God, I hope not.
Right? Right?
I hope you retire at some point here.
Exactly. And oftentimes the final check that anybody receives, right, is when they pull that last sign out of the yard, right? It's like, well, that was it. That was a fun career. Thanks, everybody, right?
Yeah.
Because it's so...
Well, it happens every time I close a sale, right? It's like I'm unemployed at that day. And so I got to go try to find the next client. So,
So if you could actually build something that were tied not just to those personal relationships, but to these other, an ecosystem, if you will, of businesses who work well together and refer each other regularly. Now you actually have an asset, right? And it's not just I built an alliance with one person, right? But it's I'm part of something bigger that not only makes the passing of those referrals easier, but it also makes them to where it generates more business because we're all seeing each other more frequently. We're talking more frequently. And it then tracks how much of my business is coming from these other professionals. It's if you're the Los Angeles Dodgers, right? Just did a great job winning the pennant, right? And it's like, if you took out the pitcher, okay, the Dodgers don't just go bankrupt and end, they have someone else who they've been preparing to step in and be the pitcher. And the Dodgers continue to be the Dodgers. The Yankees continue to be the Yankees. Because you substituted out one person doesn't make the whole thing collapse, right? In fact, you might have
I get it. Aaron Rodgers left the Packers. Jordan Love is stepping right in. So, I mean,
there you go.
This is what we're talking about. Yeah.
There you go, right? And the show goes on. And so to actually think of having a position in a network like that could actually be quite interesting, right? Could actually be something that someone else could say, well, if you're getting 2 to 3 deals a month as a real estate agent from that network, right? Then I'm going to bring somebody in for a year, be sure that you know the network, and then I'm going to step out, because these guys have all been trained. These guys and gals have been trained on how to introduce each other and how to find opportunities for each other. And they need you in that picture. And if that position is an exclusive position in a network, then all of a sudden that's actually a tangible business that someone would pay for, whether it be some percentage up front or at least over time. Now you've got an annuity that pays you on your way out the door versus, well, I hope I made enough to make it.
Yeah, for sure. No, I think it's an interesting concept and definitely one to think about. And as real estate agents, I hope learn to start to think bigger, because it's an unfortunate reality that, more real estate agents, there's a lot of real estate agents out there that don't think beyond kind of that next transaction. And, hopefully there is some type of planning for retirement, some other sort of alternative, wealth building or business building component that they're building a long-term asset, because those are the ones that are more worthwhile, so that when you do step out, it definitely makes more sense. I mean, it's, part of the reason I know, well, our team, for example, I mean, we're aligned with eXp Realty, for example. I mean, there's additional revenue opportunities through the organization beyond just selling a house. So, I think as agents want to continue to grow their businesses and do business at a higher level, I think they will absolutely want to look at what you're doing in your business and trying to build that asset so that it can be more transferable and help produce something beyond just their sale, and look at these other opportunities as well. I think it's only wise business advice for any realtor that does have higher aspirations. That's for sure.
Well said, Josh. And I think, there's a lot of different ways you could add 2 to 3 transactions a month to your business, right? I mean, look at your inbox this morning, right? Look at your text thread this morning, right? They're everywhere. And what we say is, and probably if you're really committed yourself to any one of those, it would probably work, right? The reality is, as long as you're talking to a reputable person, you can probably make those work. And our question is, and do they also turn your job into an asset? Do you actually turn your job into a real business? Because that's the path you should go. And that's really what we're trying to create, is something that actually creates an asset, right? Creates freedom, not just money, but freedom.
I like it. Sounds pretty awesome. Sounds pretty intriguing. So, well, I know we've been chatting here for quite a while. I don't know how much more we wanted to dive into. I guess, is there anything else that we wanted to tackle or talk about before we wrap things up here today?
I would just say, if this appeals to anybody, if you're like, man, I'd love to work by professional referral, right? For all kinds of reasons. I just encourage you to go to proinsight.com. That's our digital platform. If you want to read the book first, you can go to upstreammodel.com. That's the book. It's also on Amazon. It's on Audible. upstreammodel.com/book will take you right to the book. In that version, I'll sign it and send it to you. But if you're interested really in building that network that I described, which we've made it to where it's what we say Pro Insight is, if LinkedIn and BNI had a baby in the 21st century, that'd be Pro Insight. In other words, it's super easy to connect, and you create the depth of relationship like in a local networking chapter. And so anyway, proinsight.com will give you some information in there. You can contact us, even schedule a demo to learn more about it. We have, for those that are hire producers, they can actually secure their position in their community. And those are, of course, going fast. But if you're like, I just want to get the information on how to do this on my own, we also have a product for that. So
totally.
Anyway.
Well, that sounds like definitely some helpful info. I mean, I've been involved in BNI, right? Business networking before. And, it's an interesting concept, right? How do we take that to our modern age and combine it kind of LinkedIn style and build it together. I think it's very intriguing for, myself or any other agent looking to grow. So so that's definitely something to think about. So if you're listening to this and interested in taking the next step with Justin, you can do that. Check out his resources. If you enjoyed this episode, feel free to leave us any comments on or reviews or anything like that. Or you can go to abetterrealestateexperience.com is also our domain where we're hosting some other additional content from our past shows and future shows. So, but again, this is the Better Agent Podcast, again, committed to growth in your real estate business. So Justin Stoddart and myself, Josh Lavik, have appreciated your time and listening to our banter back and forth. And I hope you tune in to next episode as we continue to bring on quality guests just like Justin. So
awesome. Thanks for the opportunity, Josh. Such a pleasure. Great episode.
All right.
Great show.
Thanks much. And this is the end of today's episode. Thanks for tuning in to the Better Agent Podcast. I hope you found today's insights valuable. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review if you enjoyed the show. Stay tuned for more tips, Q&A sessions, and sneak peeks into our 21-day challenge. To get full access of our show notes and more details on the 21-day challenge, go to abetterrealestateexperience.com. Keep striving for greatness, and I'll see you on the next episode.